The modest church in Birmingham was surprisingly full, a Saturday morning buzzing not with joyous anticipation, but with a low hum of thinly veiled judgment. Imani felt the weight of every curious gaze, every hushed whisper that followed her down the aisle. Her simple, uniform-like white dress, chosen for its practicality and quiet dignity, felt less like a bridal gown and more like a uniform for enduring scrutiny. She heard the barely suppressed giggles, the murmurs of "strangest wedding ever," and what was she thinking? The snickers were sharp, like tiny needles pricking at her resolve. Imani kept her chin high, her dark skin a stark contrast to the pure white of her dress, her eyes fixed forward, refusing to acknowledge the sea of smirking faces. She knew what they thought of her, a black nanny marrying a man they perceived as beneath her. But their judgment meant nothing. Then Julian appeared at the altar, and the whispers escalated into outright, albeit still muffled, mockery. His worn-out suit, frayed at the cuffs, and the slight scuff on his shoes confirmed every guest's lowest expectation. Imani's heart ached for him, but her resolve hardened against the cruelty of their stares. From the third row she saw Serena, her self-proclaimed best friend, lean over to Bianca and Chloe, her eyes wide with exaggerated horror. "He looks like he sleeps under a bridge." What was she thinking? Serena hissed, loud enough for Imani to catch. Bianca chimed in, her voice high and dismissive. "Imani deserves so much better, a man with maximum ambition." Chloe, ever the cynic, added with a dry laugh, "This marriage will last until his next meal ticket runs out." Imani's jaw tightened. She loved these women, or thought she did, but their words cut deeper than any stranger's. But even their blatant disdain couldn't break the connection she felt with Julian. As she reached the altar, her eyes, despite the tremor in her hands, remained fixed on him. In his gaze she saw not the pity or scorn reflected in the congregation, but a gentle soul, a quiet strength that transcended his threadbare clothes and their prejudiced assumptions. Her love for him was a shield, deflecting the arrows of judgment. They saw a man without status, a burden. She saw a man of profound kindness, deep thought, and unwavering patience. This wasn't a choice born of desperation, but of discerning love. She tightened her grip on his hand, a silent promise that their love would be enough, even against a world determined to tear them down. Her mind drifted back to the rainy evening in Victoria Square, the true beginning of their story. It had been a miserable night, the kind that drove everyone indoors. Imani, on her way home from a late shift, had noticed him, as she often did, a quiet fixture huddled under the bandstand awning. Most people hurried past, averting their gaze, pretending not to see. But Imani had stopped. She remembered the warmth of the takeaway curry in her hand, the genuine smile she offered. He had looked up, startled, his eyes weary but intelligent. She had offered him food, and then, more importantly, conversation. For hours they had talked, not about his circumstances, but about books, about philosophy, about the hidden corners of the city. She had felt a connection immediately, a resonance with his quiet depth that few others possessed. Over the next several weeks, Imani returned to Victoria Square, consistently bringing Julian food, not out of charity, but out of a growing desire for his company. She listened intently as he shared poignant stories, his voice soft but rich with experience. With each visit she chipped away at the layers of his perceived poverty, discovering the man beneath the worn facade. His kindness was unwavering, his patience remarkable, and his inner character shone brighter than any material wealth. He spoke with an eloquence that hinted at a past she couldn't quite fathom, but it was his gentle spirit and profound understanding of the human condition that truly captivated her. She fell in love not with a label, but with the man Julian, who had shown her a world beyond superficiality. Back in the present, the echoes of the past seemed to strengthen her. Pastor Elias Vance, a kind man with a gentle demeanor, cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the remaining whispers. If anyone present knows any reason why this couple should not be lawfully joined in matrimony, let them speak now, or forever hold their peace. The air in the church thickened, becoming almost suffocating. Imani felt a collective intake of breath, then a heavy silence. But it wasn't a respectful silence. It was a hostile one. punctuated by muffled laughs and a renewed barrage of judgmental stares. Serena, Bianca, and Chloe were practically radiating disdain, their eyes boring into Imani. A fresh wave of hurt washed over her, but she squeezed Julian's hand, her knuckles white, her resolve unwavering. She would not break. It was time for her vows. Imani took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly at first, but then growing clear and strong as she looked into Julian's eyes. "Julian," she began, "I don't care about where you come from, or what anyone else sees. I choose you because of who you truly are, the man who saw me and let me see him. You are my gentle soul, my steadfast partner. I love you with all that I am, and I will always stand by you, no matter their judgment, no matter the storm." A few guests openly rolled their eyes, others shook their heads, unable to comprehend such sincere devotion to a man they deemed so unworthy. Imani ignored them, her gaze never leaving Julian's, pouring every ounce of her defiant love into her words. Then it was Julian's turn. He looked at Imani, a soft smile gracing his lips, his eyes full of gratitude. "Imani," he said, his voice quiet but steady, "you saw me when no one else did. You loved the man, not the label. You taught me what true compassion and unwavering kindness look like. I promise to love you for the rest of my days, and protect that truth, that precious, honest truth you shared with me." As he finished, a ripple of open laughter erupted from the pews. Serena, unable to contain herself, called out, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Love him for the rest of his days? What days? He doesn't even have a house to go to." Her words, laced with cruel amusement and classist contempt, stung Imani, a public humiliation that felt almost unbearable. The mockery reached its peak, a cacophony of sneers and snickers. But then, something shifted. Amidst the laughter, Julian's expression remained calm, almost serene. He raised a hand to Pastor Vance, a gesture so unexpected that it immediately silenced the crowd, their laughter dying in their throats. "Pastor," Julian said, his voice suddenly carrying an unfamiliar authority, a quiet power that commanded attention. "Please, may I say something before we finish?" Pastor Vance, clearly taken aback but sensing the gravity of the moment, nodded slowly. Julian turned from Imani, his gaze sweeping across the now silent, expectant faces in the pews. He took a slow, deliberate step towards the microphone stand, the worn fabric of his suit rustling softly, the only sound in the suddenly tense church. Julian reached the microphone, adjusting it to his height, his eyes settling first on Serena, then Bianca, then Chloe, holding their gaze until each woman visibly recoiled. "I know what many of you are thinking," he began, his voice no longer soft, but firm, resonant, carrying an undeniable weight. "What you've been whispering all morning, what you've been shouting even. You think Imani has made the worst decision of her life, marrying a man like me, a man in these clothes. A man, you assume, with no prospects, no ambition. Isn't that right, Serena?" His voice was calm, yet it sliced through the air like a blade. Serena's face paled, her mouth agape. "Bianca? Chloe?" The challenge hung in the air, thick with accusation. The guests shifted uncomfortably. A dawning, terrible realization beginning to ripple through the congregation. Julian's eyes, no longer those of the meek man they had mocked, glittered with an unsettling resolve. "But the truth," he continued, his voice rising, "is that I am not poor. I am not homeless. My name is Julian Thorne. I am the owner of Brooks Real Estate in London." A collective gasp ripped through the church. Jaws dropped, faces drained of color. Imani felt a jolt, a profound shock that stole her breath, a dizzying mix of vindication and utter disbelief. "I have lived for the past year as you have seen me, not because I had no choice, but because I needed to find true love. I needed to find someone who would see me, truly see me, beyond the superficial labels and the prejudices that plague our society." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And I found her, in Imani. She saw my heart, my mind, my spirit, not my perceived lack of status. "End the joke, dear friends," he said, his gaze sweeping over the horrified faces of Serena, Bianca, and Chloe. "Is not on us. It is on those who judge without knowing the truth, on those who mistake rags for worthlessness." Imani saw Tselem, you saw a label. Imani stood at the altar, utterly stunned, her heart hammering against her ribs. The vindication was a powerful, intoxicating rush, a triumph against every sneer and whisper. But beneath it, a cold knot of pain began to form. Julian. Her Julian. A millionaire? The revelation was a dizzying kaleidoscope of emotions. Awe at his strategic brilliance, joy for the public shaming of their tormentors, but also a deep, confusing sense of betrayal. She had loved him, truly loved him, through every cruel joke, every dismissive glance. And he had allowed it. He had orchestrated it. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered, the words barely audible, even to herself. "Why did you make me endure all that? Was my love not enough trust?" Her eyes darted from his triumphant, serious expression to the stunned, shamed faces of the congregation. A single tear, hot and heavy, escaped and traced a path down her cheek. Julian. The moment the stunned silence of the church allowed, Imani pulled Julian into a secluded vestry room, her voice shaking with a mixture of hurt and humiliation. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, her gaze intense, refusing to back down. "Do you know how humiliated I felt out there? You tested my love, Julian, not just their prejudice." Julian reached for her hand, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. "Imani, please listen. All my life, I've been pursued for my money, never for myself. I needed to know the love was real, and I wanted to expose them." He gestured vaguely towards the now empty church. "The people who would have judged you, scorned you, for loving a man they deemed unworthy. I had to be sure you loved game, not my status, and that we could face their judgment together." Imani took a shaky breath, acknowledging the validity of his point about prejudice. But the sting of his deception remained. "I understand why you felt you had to expose them, Julian," she conceded. "But you didn't trust commonness. You didn't trust that my love was strong enough to withstand that truth, that I would have seen you regardless." The weight of his deception, despite his explanation, was too heavy to bear. Imani looked at him, her heart aching with a pain more profound than any insult from the guests. "You tested me, Julian," she said, her voice quiet but resolute, pulling her hand from his. "Love is not a game, and it is not a test. You should have trusted me from the beginning. I needed to know you trusted my love, not just that I could pass your trial." Her eyes, though brimming with tears, held a fierce, principled resolve. She turned, her simple white dress swaying gently, and walked out of the church, leaving him standing alone in the quiet vestry. The imposing church doors closed behind her with a soft thud, a sound that echoed the definitive, painful parting of their paths, at least for now. The days that followed were heavy, each one a testament to the gaping hole Julian had left. Imani's phone buzzed incessantly with his calls, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. Her small flat in Birmingham felt both a sanctuary and a prison, filled with her own conflicting thoughts. She was torn between the deep, abiding love she still felt for Julian and the sharp, persistent pain of his betrayal of trust. She sat by the window, watching the city life unfold, grappling with the complexity of it all. Julian had indeed exposed the ugly prejudice of their friends and the wider society, revealing how quickly people's opinions were swayed by money. But in doing so, he had wounded the very foundation of their relationship. Had her worth, her love, been merely a variable in his grand experiment? The thought was a bitter pill to swallow. 2 weeks later, a knock at her door broke the quiet solitude. Imani opened it hesitantly to find Julian standing there, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, a stark contrast to the man she had married. In his hand, he held a vibrant bouquet of her favorite lilies, a picture of humility and earnest regret. His eyes, usually so guarded, were open, vulnerable. "Imani," he began, his voice low and sincere, "I know I hurt you deeply, and I am profoundly sorry. Everything I did came from a place of fear. fear of being loved only for my money, and a desperate desire to expose the prejudice that I knew would have hurt us both eventually. But I was wrong to test your trust. My fear overshadowed my faith in you. Please forgive me. You deserve so much more than a love that was put through a trial." His words were raw, deeply felt, and Imani felt a guarded sadness begin to soften. Imani looked at him, tears welling in her eyes, but this time they were tears of understanding, not just pain. She took the flowers from his hand, their fragrant petals a gentle comfort. "Julian," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't care about your money. All I ever wanted was honesty, and for you to trust my love, to believe in what we had. That was enough for me, always." Julian stepped closer, taking her hands in his grip firm and reassuring. "I understand now, Imani. Truly. My mistake was not seeing that your love was the real wealth. Let me make it right. Let me give you the wedding you truly deserve, one without any tests, without any pretense, just honesty and true celebration, a testament to our genuine love." Imani searched his eyes, seeing the profound remorse, the renewed commitment. A soft smile touched her lips. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." Weeks later, the grand church in Birmingham was transformed, magnificently decorated with cascades of white orchids and soft lighting. It was a stark, breathtaking contrast to the modest chapel of their first attempt. Imani, radiant in a stunning, custom-designed white gown, felt like a queen. Julian, beside her in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looked every inch the millionaire he was, but more importantly, he looked like a man utterly devoted to his bride. The guests, including a noticeably humbled Serena, Bianca, and Chloe, sat quietly, their previous disdain replaced by awe and a palpable respect. There were no whispers, no snickers, only hushed admiration as they witnessed a true celebration of love and vindicated worth. Imani felt a profound sense of peace. This was the wedding she deserved, a beautiful, honest beginning built on trust and mutual respect. As the ceremony concluded, Julian stepped forward, taking Imani's hand, and addressed the congregation, his voice resonating with newfound wisdom. "Today," he began, his gaze sweeping over the now attentive faces, "Imani and I begin our journey anew, and I hope, for everyone present, that our story serves as a profound lesson. Never judge love by appearances. Never laugh at what you don't understand, especially when it comes to someone's worth." His eyes lingered on Serena, Bianca, and Chloe, who visibly squirmed in their seats, their faces etched with a blend of embarrassment and discomfort. True love is rare, and it is not money or status that keeps a marriage alive. It is loyalty, kindness, and the courage to see beyond labels, beyond the superficial. Imani taught me that. And I hope, today, we've all learned that lesson. The church erupted in applause, many guests wiping away tears, understanding the profound message. The sting of the past was being replaced by the balm of truth and accountability. Their story, the Millionaire's test, quickly spread beyond the church walls, becoming an inspiration, a modern parable teaching invaluable lessons about love, judgment, and the enduring fight against prejudice. Years later, in the quiet luxury of their Birmingham home, Imani and Julian would often reflect on their extraordinary journey. Holding hands, they were grateful for the challenges they had overcome, for the invaluable, honest love they now shared. Their life together was a testament to true worth, a powerful rebuttal to superficiality. Imani, once judged for her simple dress and her choice of a seemingly impoverished man, had risen above, her resilience and discerning heart shining as a beacon for all. Their love, forged in the fires of public scrutiny and private betrayal, had emerged stronger, a lasting legacy of justice and true, unconditional love.